Why is Dark Souls so important? Hello everyone, welcome to this video. Dark Souls 2 years ago turned 10, and in today's video I want to talk about the importance of this title in the gaming world. On September 22nd, 2011, the day in which the sector impacted for the first time against Dark Souls, the day in which Hidetaka Miyazaki and From Software changed the connotations of the contemporary video game forever. There is a before Dark Souls and an after Dark Souls. It was a watershed that profoundly influenced everything that came after him and, in retrospect, those who preceded him as well. Even if you don't like it, even if you have different tastes, it would be biased not to recognize that Dark Souls has reshaped the gaming landscape, because here we are talking about a masterpiece. And when we talk about masterpieces in any of the artistic fields, it is bearing in mind above all the cultural impact that a work has on its cultural reference. Generally, a sign that indicates how important the cultural heritage of a work is the number of its clones. We originally called shooters Doom clones. Action platformers with large interconnected maps, we still call them Metroidvanias in honor of their founding fathers. And anything related to the concept of procedurality and involving permadeath is still a roguelike. Dark Souls was so influential as to lay the foundations for an entire subgenre that brings together all those works that mimic its main characteristics in a more or less evident and in-depth way. From The Surge to Mortal Shell, by Assault and Sanctuary, Code Vein, and Hollow Knight, there are an infinite number of video games that are totally or in only some aspects inspired by the Miyazaki saga. The greatness of Dark Souls lies precisely in having been so revolutionary and culturally imposing that its founding mechanics have been transmitted with varying degrees of separation, even to that audience that has never found a way to get in direct contact with the work of From Software. His image has reached everyone, and in one way or another, like a well-crafted game of mirrors. Dark Souls has been a real obsession for many, to the point of having become synonymous with a difficult video game, for better or for worse. It is no coincidence that whenever a particularly difficult video game comes out, whatever its genre, it is automatically labeled as the Dark Souls of. It is something that is sometimes quite annoying, yet this trend tells very well how much Dark Souls has been significant for all the video game landscape. There is no video game released in the last decade that has been able to unleash audiences and critics in finding parallels, references, and influences. Not in this way, at least. We live, in fact, in a soul-centric video game world. Like it or not. Regardless of anyone's opinion of the work, denying its importance would be foolish and reckless. Time is distorted in Lordran, but here on Earth it still flows relentlessly. When I first came across Dark Souls, I had a great pleasure in feeling that I had with old titles that followed the same mechanics. I was attracted, yet I could not fall in love. This was the reason that prompted me to want to study Dark Souls in all of its forms, to try to understand this masterpiece. Dark Souls helped me fight the darkest moments. After all, Dark Souls is a great metaphor about life. It's a metaphor about the most widespread and dangerous evil of the modern era, namely depression, leaving out the battles and clashes, often ruthless, against the creatures that inhabit Lordran. Dark Souls is the story of a desperate world, and the chosen undead whose body the player goes to inhabit is a very small human being facing a world at the end of the line, hostile and in ruins that is slowly dying out, and confronting with it subconsciously makes me feel like I'm the sole spectator of the death of the universe. Dark Souls scares me because, faced with the end of an era of fire, I would rather lose my mind and become empty than still have the shred of conscience necessary to understand what is happening. And this gives me extremely negative feelings with which I struggle enormously to confront. Thanks for watching. I'll leave you now with this boss fight.